Imagine a quiet playground, children laughing, a teacher clapping rhythmically. Then a group of kids begin singing a rhyme that has echoed for centuries. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. A harmless nursery rhyme, right? Wrong, because according to one disturbing historical theory, this innocent rhyme is not about children at all. It may actually be about two of the most violent public executions in European history. Executions that happened during the chaos of the French Revolution. Executions that involved a king, a queen, and a blade designed to remove heads in seconds. If the theory is true, then every time children sing Jack and Jill, they are unknowingly repeating a propaganda song celebrating royal death. And the story behind it is far darker than anyone expects. To understand this theory, we must travel to France in the late 1700s. The country was collapsing. Bread prices had skyrocketed. Farmers were starving. Cities were filled with riots. Meanwhile, the royal palace at Versailles was famous for lavish feasts and extravagant parties. The King of France was Louis XVI. He ruled a nation drowning in debt. And standing beside him was his controversial queen, Marie Antoinette. Across Europe, rumors spread about the queen. Some called her arrogant, some called her reckless, and one rumor, probably false, would become legendary. Let them eat cake. Whether she said it or not, the damage was done. The French people began to see the royal family not as rulers, but as parasites living above the suffering of the poor. And in 1789, the people exploded. Crowds stormed the Bastille prison. Soldiers abandoned their posts. Angry mobs marched through Paris demanding justice. The revolution had begun. Soon, the king himself was dragged from the safety of Versailles and forced to live under guard in Paris. The monarchy that had ruled France for centuries was suddenly powerless. But the revolutionaries wanted more than reform. They wanted revenge. And in revolutionary France, revenge had a new machine. A machine that would become one of the most feared symbols of history, the guillotine. The guillotine was introduced as a humane execution device, one swift blade, one instant death, but in reality, it became something much darker. Executions turned into public spectacles. Crowds gathered like they were attending a festival. Vendors sold food. Children sat on shoulders to watch. People cheered as the blade fell. Within a year, thousands of heads would roll into waiting baskets, and eventually, the king himself would stand beneath that blade. January 21st, 1793, the cold winter air filled the streets of Paris. More than 20,000 soldiers surrounded the execution square to control the massive crowd. At the center stood the wooden scaffold. Above it, the guillotine blade glinted in the morning light. Then a carriage arrived. Inside was the former king, Louis XVI. Witnesses said he looked pale but calm. He attempted to speak to the crowd. "I die innocent." But the drums began beating to drown out his words. Moments later, the blade dropped. In less than a second, the King of France was dead. The executioner lifted the severed head for the crowd to see. The square exploded with cheers. France no longer had a king. And according to the dark theory behind the nursery rhyme, this moment may be when Jack broke his crown, because the king didn't just lose his head. He lost his crown forever. After the king's execution, the revolutionaries turned their attention to the queen. Marie Antoinette was imprisoned in a cold, filthy cell. Her guards watched her every movement. She slept under constant surveillance. At night, rats crawled across the prison floor. Her once luxurious life had become a nightmare. Her trial was brutal. She was accused of treason, of conspiring with foreign enemies, even of crimes so shocking they were whispered in disbelief. The verdict was already decided. She would die. October 16th, 1793, 9 months after the king's execution. The queen was taken to the same square, but unlike the king, She did not ride in a carriage. Instead, she was transported in an open cart like a common criminal. Crowds lined the streets screaming insults. Some threw garbage. Others laughed. Witnesses said the once glamorous queen looked exhausted, but dignified. When she reached the scaffold, she accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot. Her final recorded words were simple. "Pardon me, sir. I did not do it on purpose." Moments later, the blade fell. And just like that, France no longer had a queen. According to the theory, this was when Jill came tumbling after. Now, here's where the story becomes truly strange. During the Revolution, Britain was watching France carefully. The two nations had been enemies for centuries. British sailors and tavern singers loved mocking the chaos across the English Channel. Some historians believe the rhyme, Jack and Jill, may have been used as satirical propaganda. Jack, the fallen king. Jill, the doomed queen. The hill, the raised execution scaffold, and the mysterious pail of water. Some darker interpretations claim it referenced the buckets placed beneath the guillotine to collect the falling head. A gruesome image hidden inside a children's rhyme. Whether this explanation is true or not, the symbolism is disturbing. Because if the theory is correct, children have been singing about royal executions for over 200 years. But here's the twist. Many historians believe the rhyme actually existed before the French Revolution. Early printed versions appeared decades earlier, which means the story connecting the rhyme to the king and queen may have been invented later. A legend created because it felt too perfect to ignore. And that is the fascinating thing about folklore. Stories evolve, meanings change, and sometimes history rewrites childhood. Final thought, 24 o'clock to 25 minutes and 0 seconds. Tonight, somewhere in the world, children will sing. Jack and Jill went up the hill. They will laugh. They will run. They will have no idea that their playful rhyme may echo a moment when crowds gathered to watch a king lose his head. History has a strange way of hiding itself. Sometimes in books, sometimes in monuments, and sometimes in the songs we teach our children.